So tonight's first question is, Dear Lumpur, according to the Abhidhamma, do we choose our mothers for our rebirth as human beings, or does this process occur randomly according to the right time as per our karma?
I'm not sure it's either, is it? It's not random, but it would rarely be a choice thing either. It's really just karmic connections from the past, and if all the conditions are right, birth occurs. You have a healthy sperm, you have a healthy egg, you have a consciousness waiting to be born, and birth can take place. But who you're born with, the mother that you are born with, when you die this life, you're hardly thinking. Most people are probably not thinking or planning or knowing exactly where they're going to be born next. What happens next, are they? It will depend on causes and conditions, karmic causes and conditions. And maybe somebody who has developed deep insight, deep jhana, abhinya, may have an insight into that process. But most people, I don't think, will have much deep insight into it. And the Buddha said, just trying to work it out logically and work out the workings of karma, your head will explode into 1,000 pieces before you succeed in doing that. But you can assume that if the mother that you're born to, you'll have a previous relationship. Maybe she's been your mother before, or you've been her mother or father, or there'll be some relationship before. I'm not sure it's that relevant, is it? The important thing is this life, how you live, how you treat your parents, how they treat you, how you practice the Dhamma this life. But it's quite likely you will have had a relationship with them before. And if you have had a relationship with them for many, many lifetimes, well, that's a strong bond that may bring you back together over and over again. So then, that may be the cause for you to be born again with that person. So one of the enlightened nuns who was a student of Lumpur Man, Mechi Gel, said how she, in a previous life, had been a mother chicken, and some of the famous teachers that we know, such as Lumpur Chop and Lumpur Cow, had been her chicks. So she was born in this last life and became a nun and a student of Ajahn Man, and these monks were born in this life and became students of Ajahn Man. So they all knew each other, and they had, they would, you could say they were Kalyana Mitta, friends in the Dhamma. But she had previously been a mother hen, and they had been her chicks. And one of the things she did right up to the end of her life, she was even as an arahant, she would still get up early and make rice to offer to the monks, those monks. So that's her, I guess, part of her habit of being a mother to each of those monks. In this life they're monks, she's a nun. In previous life she was a chicken, a hen, and they were her chicks. You can imagine that kind of scenario occurring life after life in different situations. Whether you're an animal, a deva, human, the close relationships will probably keep reoccurring. But whether it's every life or some lives, there are so many factors at work here. Our main aim is to go beyond the karma process of samsara and attain nibana. Nibana is the deathless. So even if you have, a mother and you were related to your mother in a previous life, being born is going to give rise to suffering, the suffering of old age, sickness and death. And you want to be free from suffering yourself, you want nibana yourself. And if you think of your mother, you wish for her to be free from old age, sickness and death too. So you wish her nibana too.
Sadhu Lumpur. Next question. Today is the first time I did metta meditation. So this may be a basic question because I am new. Today I wished others to be well and free from suffering. But the truth is they can't be free from suffering because we all get sick and suffer unless they attain nibana. So shouldn't my only wish be they find the path of nibana and develop more mindfulness? Can you please clarify?
Yeah, that's a great wish to have for other beings, of course. When we say, I wish you to be free from suffering, that is synonymous with nibana, isn't it? The highest freedom from suffering, the highest happiness is nibana. So just keep wishing that for yourself and others. Focus your mind on nibana. And what does nibana require? It means cultivating the Eightfold Path, which includes mindfulness, abandoning wrong views, abandoning greed, anger, delusion, cultivating all the qualities of the path, sila, samadhi, panya. That's what you wish when you're practicing metta. But at the same time, you need some wisdom to guide your practice of metta, because you know, as you wish people to attain nibbana, well, some will attain it quickly and many will attain it slowly, and it might take quite a few lifetimes before they reach nibbana. So you have to be ready for that. Everybody goes according to their karma. And you may wish somebody to attain nibbana and be free from suffering, but then you notice they're going in completely the opposite direction, and they don't keep the precepts, or they do very harmful things that cause themselves a lot of stress and suffering, or cause other people stress and suffering. And they're going in the complete opposite direction of nibbana. But in the present moment, you can still have metta for them. Even if they're not listening to you, or there's not much you can do to help them at present, you can still wish them well. You have to remember, metta is a very much a present moment quality that you develop for all beings and in all situations. And life is full of many situations, horrible situations sometimes. Say you see the news of a war, such as Ukraine war or Sudan war, or wherever there's a war. You can have metta for both sides. You wish both sides to come to peace, to stop their hostilities, to see sense, and then sit down and practice for nirvana. That's your wish. And you can do that. In the present moment, you have metta for everybody, for all beings. But you need your wisdom to, modify your expectations. You don't expect everyone to just suddenly stop fighting and start practicing for nibbana yet, maybe. You wish it, but it may take a while before that begins, that process begins. So you have to accept that. Depends on karma, doesn't it? So that your metta doesn't lead into disappointment and disappointed expectations, sadness, a sense of hopelessness. You have to guide your metta with wisdom. So that's something you might do. I would say if you're doing a metta meditation, you cultivate this thought, very pure metta to all beings in all directions, wishing them well. But then maybe later, after the meditation, you reflect on karma, cause and effect, and you develop some wisdom around your metta practice as well, so that it doesn't lead you into feelings of sadness or despair. It can be very easy to just despair of the world because there's so much suffering and problems, that you spread metta and then you just feel it's all just a waste of time. It can go into aversion very easily. So you need some wisdom to guide you to balance your metta with the quality of upekkha, equanimity. And that comes through experience. So if you're really practicing metta, you don't give up your metta just because you encounter people who are suffering or don't seem to be improving in their life. You simply manage your expectations and you maintain your metta, but you also cultivate upekkha at the same time.
Sadhu Lumpur. Another question. Could Ajahn please explain the proper way of practicing samadhi in the context of the threefold training and also as a separate subject?
Threefold training, I assume you mean the development of sila, samadhi and panya. So one thing to remember about this Eightfold Path, Noble Eightfold Path, is that all the 8 factors support each other. So you've probably seen the symbol of the wheel, the Dhammachakra wheel. And depending on the teaching, it's representing, sometimes the wheel has 12 spokes, representing the teaching on conditionality and dependent origination. But quite often it will have 8 spokes, representing the Noble Eightfold Path. I always find that a very kind of useful guideline. If you have a wheel with 8 spokes and one of the spokes is broken or missing, then your wheel won't turn properly. You need all these 8 factors supporting each other to really develop the path. So that's right view, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right samadhi. So if you're practicing correct samadhi or developing states of stillness in the Buddhist path, you'll also be cultivating the other 7 factors together, because they work together to support samma samadhi or right samadhi. So that means not only right effort, right mindfulness, but also right livelihood, right speech, right action, right thought, right view. And you'll notice, won't you, if you're practicing meditation every day, it will start to affect how you behave when you're not meditating, when you're not doing your samadhi practice. So when you're at work or traveling or shopping or going to sleep or having a bath or eating your food, all the normal experiences of a human, you'll start to notice things. You'll start to notice when you're not very mindful and you break precepts or you act in kind of harmful ways. You'll notice when you get caught into very unskillful thinking or unskillful speech. Because when you start meditating, it will all come up. And you'll be remembering what you've said and done, and sometimes you have feelings of regret. So quite quickly you start to learn the relationship between body, speech and mind, or sila, samadhi, panya. You'll also notice how you rely on wisdom as well to develop samadhi. So wisdom may often be just simply reflecting on the impermanent nature of thoughts that have been coming up and bothering you, and you notice, oh, these thoughts are so impermanent, they come, they go. From that you see their sort of insubstantial nature, and you realize reflecting on the Dhamma in that way can also help develop samadhi. It's what we call wisdom developing samadhi. When you contemplate the impermanence of body, feelings, thoughts, moods and emotions, that often helps you to let go quicker and helps you to develop states of stillness or samadhi. So if you keep practicing, I think what you'll become appreciative of over time is the way these different factors support each other and work together, and you can't neglect one part of the practice. Often we begin our meditation training or learning about meditation, we just pick one technique, whether it's a samatha technique like the breath meditation, or we go on a vipassana retreat and we just focus on a lot of vipassana, contemplating the arising and ceasing of physical and mental sensations and so on. As you practice further, you often start to appreciate the broader picture, the bigger picture, and how the different aspects of the practice support the development of the mind. So say, for example, the practice of generosity, sharing, charity, helps the development of samadhi. that link may not be immediately obvious. You might think, oh, to develop samadhi, I need to go off in a hut or a cave, some quiet place, and just be on my own and have lots of time to myself. And there may be a time and place for that. That may be part of the practice, of course. But you may also notice if you develop the practice of generosity and kindness in daily life, that helps you to let go of many attachments as you're going along through your day. And then when you come to meditate, maybe your meditation goes better. Your mind settles down in samadhi quicker, and you let go of hindrances more easily because of the dharana you've practiced. So just seeing the relationship between different parts of the practice, I think, is important. Seeing the big picture, seeing the relationships, then you'll realize that you can develop your practice in every situation. You may vary or modify what you're doing at any one time, but it's all part of the practice. And I think through experience you'll see that more and more.
Sarulungpo. We have quite a few questions tonight. There are about 10 more, but we can slowly work through them.
We'll work through them, maybe shorter answers, briefer answers. Let's see.
So next one is, at work, I am often afraid of being powerless to resist when someone wrongs or scolds me or increases my workload. I don't want to go to work. How can I adjust my attitude? Thank you very much.
Number one, I would say just be patient with the situation. Don't give up. Don't give in to the desire just to quit. See what you can learn from the situation. See if you can change your approach. So from the patience, you may be able to develop more of the kindness for yourself and for others, just to adjust your thinking so you're not always going into the negative thinking, into the aversion. And the more you can establish some mindfulness and goodwill, that may give you the understanding of what you need to do to improve things. Right? There'll probably be some things you can't do anything about. You just have to put up with and be patient with. Some aspects of your job, some aspects of the workload, the behavior of other people. Like if you practice metta, the behavior of other people becomes less of a problem to you. You actually feel more sorry for them if they're behaving badly. And sometimes, your whole attitude turns around, and instead of being annoyed or angered by it, you just feel sorry for them. And then you carry on and ignore them maybe, or you don't have to do very much other than recognize where they're going wrong and feel sorry for them. But there may be not a lot that you have to do. Of course, if there is somebody really impinging on you, really bullying you or giving you a hard time, well, if you can establish mindfulness and a heart with some goodwill, then you approach them to talk about it perhaps, or maybe go to a third party higher up or someone else to talk about it. It's going to help you get a better outcome if you're coming from a place of mindfulness and goodwill. When you give in to your ill will, you're angry, upset, you feel unjustly treated, badly treated, and you go from a place of anger, you generally get a lesser response from the people you go for help, whether it's the actual perpetrator of whatever is wrong or the third party. They generally treat you worse or don't give you so much credit because you're coming from anger. So try to quell your anger and then act. Whether you need to say something, do it from a place of mindfulness, goodwill, rather than just anger.
Sadhu Lungpo. Next question. Today, in metta meditation, I wished my mother to find the path of nibana as she passed away many years ago. If she is born in the human world, I wished her to be well and free from suffering. I felt great, which is good, but can I actually transfer such blessings to my mother or anyone else for that matter? Isn't their own karma that which drives their life? Can you please explain the real purpose of this? Isn't it to develop my own kindness and goodwill, not necessarily to pass the blessings to someone else?
It's both. And what's the alternative? You think of your mum with ill will? Like when I understand your mother's passed away. Say when you're with a living person, if you have the thought in your mind, I wish you to attain nibana, be free from suffering, that's going to inform the way you look, the way you think, the way you act towards that person. You're not going to be doing things that harm that person. You're not going to be giving into your own irritation in different situations, are you? Because you're cultivating the thought, I want you to be free from suffering. It's a very pure, powerful, good thought. They might even see it in your look, the way you look. They may notice it in your words, the kind of words you choose and the way you behave, the way you act towards them. All of these things are telling people, they're giving messages to people, and it does matter. It's not like just some kind of game or just some kind of fake thing you're just trying to do to convince yourself to be a good person. You know, these aspirations, when you develop them with mindfulness and you develop them regularly, they have a certain power to them. You may be able to even calm someone down who's suffering by simply talking to them with that kind of attitude of wishing them to be free from suffering. If your meditation gets strong, you may be able to calm them down through your meditation, but you would have to develop quite a skilled level of meditation to do that, but it's possible. So don't underestimate the power of these wholesome aspirations and the power of your ability to pass them on. And who can you pass them on best to is the people you're closest to. So mothers are often that person or one of those people. Even if your mother's passed away, if she was to know that you're wishing her well, wishing her to be free from suffering, that would make her very happy. How would she know? Well, she may know because she's so close to you, even though you can't see her, that she can pick up on what you're thinking. Or else there may be an intermediary. So you'll notice when one of the chants we do, sharing merit, we wish that the devas let them know. And devas can do that. Devas have the duty of passing on goodwill, good messages. So you can send metta on goodwill or dedicate merit to your loved ones who have passed away. Maybe that's enough in itself, or maybe the devas will help pass it on, or maybe monks and fellow practitioners can help pass it on as well. These things are all possible, so don't underestimate the power of your mind, wholesome aspirations, dedicating merit, sharing, spreading metta. It can all help both the living and those who passed away. And you, of course.
Sadhu Lungpo. Next question. Dear Ajahn, it is mentioned that Sotapanna has virtues dear to the noble ones. Could Ajahn help us to understand more about virtues dear to the noble ones? Sadhu.
5 precepts are very dear to the noble ones. Keep the 5 precepts and the noble ones will be really happy with you. Because when you see people not following the 5 precepts, you feel sad because you know they're causing themselves and other people harm. And the noble ones have developed their insight to the point where they have abandoned certain negative mental intentions, particularly those ones that lead to them breaking the precepts. They've abandoned the worst aspects of greed, possessiveness, stinginess. They've abandoned all kinds of wrong views. Why have they abandoned them? Because they know wrong views, greed, immorality leads to suffering. They don't want suffering and they don't want other people to suffer because they have kindness and compassion. So the noble ones will naturally themselves move towards people who keep precepts. So, live together in monastic communities or associate with good, well-practiced lay people. because that's what brings them happiness and that's what's beneficial for the world. Doesn't mean to say that they hate or look down on people who don't have precepts, but people who are not keeping the precepts yet are not going to be so comfortable around the noble ones. And you see that all the time. People who don't keep the precept, they drink or they steal or whatever, they go and see the noble ones. They sit there and their eyes are shifty, they're moving around and they don't stay very long. They get up and leave quickly because they're uncomfortable. When people without precepts come in contact with people with precepts, there's a mismatch. But it doesn't mean to say that people with precepts, the noble ones, look down on them. They just feel sorry for them and wish them to see the benefit of practicing and maybe learning to keep the precepts, change their ways. So one of the best ways to learn to keep precepts is aspire to practice this Buddhist path and go and meet with Kalyana Mitta, those people who keep the precepts, meet with them, get good examples from them, see them, talk to them, hear from them. If you're like, when I lived with Ajahn Chah, when you're around a noble one like that, you don't dare to do things. You don't dare to break the 5 precepts. Even if the thought arose in your mind, you don't dare to follow that thought. So gradually that thought disappears from your mind. And that's one of the benefits, the good karma of living or being close to well-practiced people. They help you in your practice. They pull you up and they give you the good example. They make you much more sensitive. So then you're aware of your own intentions and you start giving up the more negative ones.
Sadhu Lumpur. Next question. Dear Ajahn, why is the practice so difficult and sometimes the defilements completely take over so intensely I sometimes feel very depressed and suicidal? Please advise.
Well, we're deluded, and if delusions are strong and things are not going well, those delusions become very overwhelming and may determine most of our thinking and choices. And as you say, sometimes we get so depressed we become to the point where you think there's no point carrying on. But there is a point carrying on, because all of this is delusion and all of it can be abandoned. We have that potential within us, and that's what the Buddha is pointing to. It's not saying it's easy, it's not saying it will be necessarily quick and easy, but it can be done. And if you, again, going back to that basic thing, you've received this gift of life. Being born as a human being is a very rare and special thing. This is coming from the mind of a Buddha who's seen the whole picture, the whole cosmology, what we call samsara. To be born as a human being is a very rare thing. The potential of a human being is so great that you can go all the way to nibana. It's not that everyone will go to nibana in this life, but that potential is there. So to give that up, say, if one is suicidal, to actually successfully cut off the live stream, kill yourself, is such a shame. It's so sad, because you're giving away or destroying this gift, this opportunity to attain the path, progress along the path towards nibana. And of course, as we know from just observing the mind, say I've observed my own mind, and I've also dealt with a few people who've been suicidal, and then also from the teachings of the Buddha, even if you successfully end your life, it's not the end of the story, is it? You're reborn and your suffering goes with you, and that habit of turning on yourself, self-harm, trying to destroy yourself, the extreme anger, depression, goes with you. It's no escape. That's the whole point. Suicide doesn't get you to escape from your problem. It's just ending this life and the opportunity to practice is diminished. So in the next life, often it's you're reborn in a worse place with more extreme suffering than before. So the general teaching, I know we're just talking about generalizations here, but the general teaching is be patient with the situation, get good advice, meet with those people who can give you good advice, good examples, get the help, and then be very patient and start practicing to get out of that situation, to see the impermanent nature of those states of mind and give yourself a chance to learn to get out of it in whatever way you can successfully. Just keep going. Don't give up.
Sadhu Luang Por. Next question. Why is good merit important as the good feelings from merits are also impermanent?
Well, it's like they say merit gives rise to piti and sukha, joy. These qualities are like buoyant. They keep you afloat. So like say you are depressed or in your life seems to be, you're struggling in life. That's that sinking feeling. You're drowning in life. You're being dragged under, aren't you? Merit is the opposite. It's what buoys you up when you think, act and do meritorious things. Your mind is buoyed up. So you can say, yeah, the feelings are impermanent, true, and that is an important insight. But at the same time, you need to sustain yourself while you're practicing until you reach nibana. So the Buddha compared it to, crossing the ocean. If you're stuck in the ocean, you need something to keep you afloat. You need something to buoy you up. You need a raft or a life belt or a life jacket to get to the other side. When you get to the other side, you can cast off your raft, your life jacket. You don't need it anymore. So eventually you will abandon even merit. You don't need to make merit anymore, so the arahant. But while you're going on your path, you do need merit. Because what's the alternative? The alternative is you're so miserable and depressed as we can get. It's very hard to develop any kind of insight or understanding what to do, what is the path, what is not the path. You lose your motivation to practice. So merit, even though it's temporary, if you keep making merit, then you keep getting these little boosts that buoy you up and keep you going until eventually insight is established and you won't need merit anymore.
Sadhu Luang Por. Next question. Hello, Ajahn. I couldn't concentrate to listen to the Dhamma, and I lost interest of it since I work for a busy job, but I didn't want to give up. What should I do? Thank you.
Well, it sounds like you do still have some faith in the Dhamma. One thing you can do is remember what inspired you before you gave up the Dhamma, before you gave up practicing. Try and remember what brought you to the Dhamma, what inspired you to practice, the teachings or the reflections you had. Another one is to associate with Kalyana Mitta. So make that effort to get out, not just on online like this, but try and get out to actually meet teachers or fellow practitioners, go to places, join a retreat, go and visit a monastery or a temple or a place where there's teacher. Get involved in activities that bring you in contact with people who practice the Dhamma. I think you'd find that will be stimulating you in the right direction and helping over time.
Sadhu Luang Por. Next question. Of the different meditation objects, would learning breath meditation be most helpful at one's deathbed?
If you're new to meditation, it's probably the best one to start with. Experiment with it, try it, and if you experience any sense of calm, well-being arising, even if briefly, that may be a clue that you should carry on with it. But if after having practiced with the breath meditation for, a reasonable period of time, I don't mean just a few minutes or a few days, work with it regularly for a number of months maybe, or a year even, and you've decided this is really not working, I'm not peaceful at all, I just can't get it, I don't understand it, or I can't do it, okay, then try one of the others. Could be loving kindness, body contemplation, even death contemplation. You go to the text or go to a teacher and get a suggestion on another meditation. But that doesn't mean to say if you are developing the breath meditation, you're satisfied to do that and you find some peace. Doesn't mean to say you can't sometimes develop the other meditations as well. You can. You may develop, say, loving kindness meditation to help you deal with anger, or body contemplation to help you deal with the attachment to sensual desire and lust, and so on. Or just developing vipassana meditation into insight into impermanence as well. You can try that. So there's certainly room to experiment, even if you've already got a main meditation object that you use. But just be aware of jumping around all the time through boredom, try this, try that. The mind will never settle down that way. You really need to pick a meditation object that you've decided works for you, at least got some sense of confidence in it, and then you carry on with that regularly, and then you should get improved results over time.
Sadhu Luang Por. Next question. Isn't seeking nibana selfish, as one has to leave the people behind who love them very much?
Well, as we discussed earlier, you wish for them to attain nibana as well. The other thing is, what is nibana? It's in the absence of greed, anger, and delusion from the mind. You're reducing the causes for those in your mind, so that you're reducing your greed, anger, and delusion through this practice. That is surely good for everyone. If you are walking around less greedy, less angry, less deluded than before, then your relationships with people will improve. The way you treat other people will improve. The way you live in this world will improve. So it can only be good, not selfish. The alternative would be, say, I'm not going to practice for nirvana, that's selfish. I'm just going to sit here with my greed, my anger, and my delusion. So I'm going to be a greedy, miserable old soul who nobody wants to be with. I'm just playing around here, but it's logical, isn't it? If you're abandoning the causes of suffering from your mind, that's good for you and it's good for everyone else as well.
Sadhu Luang Por. Sorry, just going back to the previous question, there was I think another part. Would breath meditation be most helpful at one's deathbed?
If you know no other meditation, yes, it would be. The best thing to do is practice it a lot through your life, so that when you get to your death and you don't know when that's going to be, you're ready and you can turn to the breath. You don't know what your situation will be, and unfortunately at the end of our life the breath often gets quite hard. It's labored, it's coarse, it's difficult, but still, if you're able to be conscious, because that's another thing, sometimes people are unconscious or under the effects of painkillers, but if you're conscious, you can turn to the breath. That's a really good meditation to die with. And I've known people and witnessed people doing that, and they've been very peaceful. It's helped them let go of all kinds of worries, fears, concerns. So if you've developed that at all through your life, then that will be a very good one to bring up. Another good one, if you can't go to the breath or you're not sure what to do, another good one is just recollecting the Buddha. You recollect the Buddha. It's such a powerful wholesome, skillful object of mind, that it does help you to let go of all the kind of anxieties and stress that might come up as you get closer to death.
Sadhu. Next question. Recently, I have felt very lost and uncomfortable, and then the feeling disappeared. And then I wanted to get it back, but don't know why.
Say that again. You had the...
Recently, I have felt very lost and uncomfortable, and then the feeling disappeared, and then I wanted to get the feeling back, but don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know why either. Why would you want to get that back? If you're feeling lost and depressed and then it disappears, that's good. It's impermanent, and you're witnessing the impermanence of a state of unhappiness. That's good. Keep practicing mindfulness. I'd recommend developing a mindfulness practice on a daily basis, sitting or walking meditation, to heighten and improve your awareness, make it stronger. Then whatever's coming up, whether you want to feel a certain way or you don't want to feel a certain way, but it's coming up, you can just watch it in a more detached way. That's your aim. As you practice more mindfulness, you notice feelings, emotions, moods arising, passing away, and you're not investing such a strong sense of self in all this mental activity. You know it, you observe it, but then you're also able to let it go because you're more mindful. So I'd focus a lot on just basic mindfulness techniques, whether it's sitting, walking meditation, being mindful of jobs and activities you're doing, mindful of your speech, and so on. Do that a lot, and I think you'll find that helps you to understand better your own mind and the workings of your mind, free it from some of the stresses and some of the delusions.
Sadhu Lumpur. We have one more question for tonight. How to start to do meditation? Thank you. Probably
the wisest way would be to find a group or a teacher or a group who you can do it with. If you're brand new, that often helps. So whether it means going out to a place like temple, monastery, center, or somebody's home where there's a group who meet, or if that's not possible, then online is also another way. Online is not such a good way because it's so easy to get distracted. You know, you're sitting watching a screen doing your meditation, but you know, if you want to get distracted, it's very easily, isn't it? Nobody's there to really know what you're up to. When you actually go out of your home or your dwelling place to somewhere else and there's a group of people, ideally with a teacher as well, you try harder. You listen to the instructions, you put them into practice, you try harder, even if it's only for a short period of time. From what I can see, most people benefit from that kind of introduction to meditation. They'll get more out of it. They try harder, they'll get more out of it, and maybe they get a chance to ask questions or get feedback from other people as well. I'd say generally speaking, that's the best way to learn meditation in the beginning, and then you practice on your own as well. So you practice in a group maybe once a week or once in a while, and then you also practice alone, and you notice the difference. When you're on your own, are you more easily distracted? Do you give up easily? Do you fall asleep easily? More easily than when you're in a group, say? That's something to learn, how to balance up your effort so that even when you're on your own, you can still do it. That would be one short-term goal you might aim for. How can I learn to meditate exactly the same when I'm on my own as when I'm with the group or with the teacher?
Sadhu Lumpur. Are there any final questions? If not, we may end the session there.
So thank you for your attention tonight, and I wish you all well in your practice, and we can meet again next time.